So, hi everybody, welcome to Open Mic Night number 78. Just today, Kevin and I were wondering, I wonder how many Open Mic Nights we will do. Because we're in our 9th year of doing it, yes. So, we'll see. You guys will tell us when you've had enough, won't you?
At least 100.
Get to 100. We wanted to get to 100, yes. We lost a few last year because we should be up around 82 or 3 now. But anyway, number 78. And everyone's been here before, I think. Everyone knows the drill. Kev is recording all the readings. If you don't want to be on YouTube, please let him know so that he can cut it out. Usually we put it up within a few days. We will try to do that this week, will we, Kenny?
Yep.
Kev and I are going bush on Saturday, so if it doesn't get done this week, it'll have to wait another week. Okay, 5 minutes each tonight. At 4.5 minutes, Kev's going to go ding. Kev's going to... And then at 5 minutes, he's going to go ding ding. We don't have the dog to get you off tonight, but he's getting a bit like an old man. Our dog, he just wants to sleep. So he's at home sleeping. Yeah, he gets bored now. Yeah. So I'm going to start with Richard. Richard Drembath is going to read some poetry.
I'm not sure what I'm doing for that.
No?
Thank you, Blaze. Thank you for making me first before I can think about anything. While I'm thinking about what I'm going to read, instead of doing one of my own, which I might do later, I'll pinch a couple from somebody else, proper poets. First one, Matthew Arnold, and it's called Too Late. Each on our own strict line we move, and some find death ere they found love. So far apart their lives are thrown from the twin soul that halves their own. And sometimes by still harder fate, the lovers meet, but meet too late. Thy heart is mine, true, true, true. Then love, thy hand, no, adieu. He didn't write 5-minute poems. Well, he did, but I don't know any of them. The next one, I won't tell you who it's by, I'll just let you work it out. I had written him a letter which I had, for want of better knowledge, sent to where I met him down the Lachlan years ago. He was shearing when I knew him, so I sent the letter to him just on spec, addressed as follows: Clancy of the Overflow. And an answer came directed in a writing unexpected, and I think the same was written with a thumbnail dipped in tar. 'Twas a shearing mate who wrote it, and verbatim I will quote it: Clancy's gone to Queensland droving, and we don't know where he are. In my wild erratic fancy, visions come to me of Clancy, gone a droving down the Cooper, where the western drovers go. As the stock are slowly stringing, Clancy rides behind them singing, for the drover's life has pleasures that the townsfolk never know. And the bush has friends to meet him, and their kindly voices greet him, and the murmur of the breezes in the river on its bars. And he sees the vision splendid of the sunlit plains extended, and at night the wondrous glory of the everlasting stars. I am sitting in my dingy little office, where a stingy ray of sunlight struggles feebly down between the houses tall, and in place of lowing cattle I can hear I'm sorry, I've messed that up, and the fetid air and gritty of the dusty, dirty city through the open window floating spreads its foulness over all. And in place of lowing cattle, I can hear the fiendish rattle of the tramways and the buses making hurry down the street. And the language uninviting of the gutter children fighting comes fitfully and faintly through the ceaseless tramp of feet. And the hurrying people daunt me, and their pallid faces haunt me as they shoulder one another in their rush and nervous haste, with their eager eyes and greedy, and their stunted forms and weedy, for the townsfolk have no time to grow, they have no time to waste. And I sometimes rather fancy that I'd like to change with Clancy and take a turn at droving where the seasons come and go, while he faced the round eternal of the cash book and the journal. But I doubt he'd suit the office, Clancy of the Overflow. You're not about to ding me, Kevin, are you?
No. Good dong.
Having done two by proper poets, we'll do one. This isn't an improper poet, but this is one of mine. It's called If We Should Ever Meet Again. Do you ever wonder what would happen if we should ever meet again? Would it be like the first time or the last? They both seem so long ago. And yet it is the first time I recall, when we were in the springtime of our lives. The days seemed longer then, the road seemed straight and true, and yet life overtook us with its twists and turns and undergrowth along the verges of the road, more dense each mile, until it blocked our long shared view of life's true common goal. You went your way and I went mine, yet looking back I don't recall the reason, what went wrong, if anything. Perhaps it was just time for both of us to scan life's landscape as it lay outstretched before us. We drifted, and our lives took different paths to different destinations. But what if once again our paths should cross? If we had time to pause, reflect, and to exchange the stories of our lives, would we change anything? Or simply look upon those early days with fondness, born of love, and wonder why?
What are you talking about? I think Kev's a bit excited about his job as the dinger.
The power.
Ron's going to read a short story.
Okay. Dark waters. I flicked the covers aside, slid quietly out of bed. Straightening up, I heard the familiar crack and creak of my knees. It's 5 in the morning and I again need the bathroom. I came back to my bed, relieved. I closed my eyes, but again sleep would not come. A memory tugged at my mind and I began to think of her. Maybe in the same way she had thought about her mother, and perhaps her of hers as well. I could never know. Noreen was long gone before I knew how to ask about such things. My mind crossed through time to the creaking wooden jetty close to where we lived. I saw the way the moonlight glistened like silver over the gently flowing river, and how she often found herself there, standing at the edge, staring blankly into the dark waters. How can a parent ever know how their child will turn out? I guess you try your best at best. At worst, you rue the day the child was born. Noreen, watching her taut, flat belly growing from pot-bellied cute, month by month, becoming the home and refuge for the growing child, thinking all along, is it worth it? It had to be. It's natural. It's what's expected. Who am I to think of something different? Am I to be responsible for the creation of a new life? A lifetime of caring and worry in equal measures, I'm sure. If she's lucky, she'll do her best at best. If she's had the best done for her, the best and the worst, a toin toss at best. I made my way to the stereo player. I slipped a John Coltrane album from its cover, placed it carefully on the turntable. The music surfaced an incident long since forgotten or buried so deep in my mind, fearing recall. I held Noreen's hand so tight she couldn't let me go. I was at her hip, struggling to keep up as she strode, driven towards the jetty's edge. She's standing motionless, her face shimmering on the moonlight waters. She's staring into the cold depths of the river, pondering her next move. A wild animal cried out, caught in a snare most likely. The cry startled Noreen and she blinked. "Ah!" she cried out, reeling backwards from the edge and realising I was there. She swept me up in her arms. "My darling boy," she whispered in my ear, "I don't know what I might have done if you weren't here." And she carried me back into the house, hugging me tight, fleeing from the edge. The dark waters and the edge had beckoned Noreen into the deep, inviting her to slip gently beneath the surface, leaving not a ripple to mark her existence. Questions and doubts tugged at her mind, remained unanswered, unresolved. In that moment, my world stopped, its very rotation slowing to a crawl. Light appeared frozen in space, colours more vibrant than I could ever imagine. Closing my eyes, I see myself in the dark waters, drifting far away through the reed beds of my childhood, buoyed along by the currents, flowing to the ocean beyond, far beyond and out into the clear, open waters. I'm small again. I see Noreen's face, smiling, her eyes locked on mine. Rays of sunlight break through the trees. Shadows dance along the winding, stony paths. The scent of soft grass, freshly mown, fill our lungs. Breezes of warm air against her bare shoulders. Her long red hair dancing in the breeze and the shine of it when the sun glances off it, and the smell of it when she takes me near to her skin. I wasn't to know the agonies my mother endured to bring me into this world, her secret world, and how she yearned to share it with me alone. Thank you.
Perfect time. Well done. Marcello, tell us a story.
Well, it's almost sort of I'll tell you my story. First of all, I think I must be the oldest man here in age and in number of presents. I think I've done over 70. I've missed too many. And this for me has been almost a second home in the past 8 or 9 years, but I've had the pleasure of having a few exhibitions. And in the last 12 months, which has been the most difficult in my life, this place has helped me find my way back in many ways. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you, young Blaze. I'm sorry Les is not here. And this actually is the first time in many years that I was able to walk unassisted by Kev or Les. So this is the way back to recovery. Last year when we started being locked in by COVID, it was hard. But then on the 26th of June, on a Friday morning, I lost my only son, 41-year-old, in a tragic car accident. All of a sudden, my life changed. And it was in many ways worse of the 3 years that I spent in Sicily during the war. And I even saw my house being destroyed by the Americans' flying bombs. My house was burning for 3 days and 3 nights. But what happened, sort of the loss of a dear one, made it hard. And I had to make some decisions. Decisions, not just personal, also including my artwork, Pauline's and my music, whole thing. And I decided, no, yes, we're going to continue what we've been doing, because our son wanted us to do that. And I remember years ago at one of the exhibitions at the launching, we had Colin Brooks and Andrew Giles, and there was my little grandson there, my son and my daughter and my family. And Blythe called my little grandson to come up here. And he should see his face. He was so happy. But then I looked at my son and was even happier, because he felt, look, yes, my son is being treated like a grown-up. And my son to me was like a brother. And the funeral was during COVID, at the time when Melbourne metropolitan area was not allowed to go to the country. We were in a hot red spot. So to go to my son's funeral, I had to have a special permission. Anyway, so eventually, to the point that as yet I've not seen where my son is being buried. And then we had been commissioned to be part of the, as we for the last 20 odd years, part of the Victoria Senior Week Festival. We perform music. And this year they decided to be online. And they asked whether we would do it, in, still being obviously said. And we decided to do it because we do bring little pleasure to some people. And that's what we're here for, to give pleasure to others. When you read, or like when Robert spoke and he mentioned Coltrane, I just remember 2 weeks ago I was listening to his saxophone. So, and it's in this place that I've had sort of a second or maybe now a third life, hopefully, because knowing that we are going to continue coming and knowing and make it better, if possible, than before. Not just in numbers, but in quality. Things are hard. But because when we get up here to speak, we speak part of our lives, whether it be prose, music, or poetry. It's us. And like I tell a little story, instead of reading a story, I tell a story what happened to me, and we're trying hard and to say thank you to over 1,000 people that contacted us, including we had 300 hard, old-fashioned hard copies of the sympathy cards. So all that is, I've decided that comes July, I'm going back to my artwork full-time. Exactly what I'm going to do, I'm not sure yet. It's part of my last stretch, I suppose. But I'll be here because it's people like you that encourage me, pushes me to new limits. And for that, I'm very, very happy, but most of all, thankful for you present here tonight, and to Kevin and Blythe that are going to continue in very extreme difficulties. Sorry if I went away from the usual speech on Genostra, but thank you for having listened to me. And I remember during this time, and that's why I spoke, I can still see the big cardboard cutout. And you know what I mean. It's here. And by the way, where this 12-string guitar is missing.
That's our heart space, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes. And he is here in the room with you tonight.
Yes.
Gay. Gay's. Yes.
Thank you.
Smaller.
Thank you. Just tight here. Thank you. race through the years, I was absolutely certain that, like a good wine, I'd get better with time. So this is a guide for those whose age is like mine. Now, what did I come in this room to do, and why am I holding a blue suede shoe? But I digress. First thing to mention to you is your hair. It disappears from your eyebrows, your head and everywhere. What alarms you is when you discover it again, growing with gay abandon all over your chin. You find with surprise a moustache on your lip. Removal cream and tweezers give it the slip. This shoe must be a clue to what I was to do. But let me get back to what I was telling you. It appears to me that I'm showing some wear, and the wrinkles are there along with less hair. My figure has blossomed into something much bigger, and there has been some sagging to my hourglass figure. The womanly curves are now mountainous hills. But wait, let me tell you about all my pills. Pink pills for the stomach, white pills for the pain, little round pills to stop something from happening again, and I'm not really sure what the little green ones are for, and I've just dropped the big white ones onto the floor. It takes up some time sorting out medications, but if one is not taken, it may cause complications. Well, tonight I'm going to the pub for a meal with Sophie, Julie, Marianne and Lucille. It'll be nice if we all remember to come. I'll wear my blue suit with my hair in a bun. But wait, I remember what I'm supposed to do. I have to find the other blue suede shoe. So I'll say goodbye and go search and see. If I can find the other shoe, I may go to tea. Now, where did I put my glasses? Without them I can't see. And this is called The Fall. I fell over today, and I have to say I did a good job of it all. I went down with a crash, caught my foot, and I smashed down under the lemon tree. I let out a great yell, not feeling too well. My knee, my foot, my back. And although no broken bones were found, I felt they were under attack. Like a cow down in a paddock, I couldn't get up on my feet. But I was pulled out by my darling. His rescue really was quite neat. Unsteady and aching, I finally managed to stand, upright at last, holding my darling's hand. Now I'm sitting up in bed and I'm waiting to be fed. Don't tell anybody, but I don't feel bad at all. I'm having such a lovely time getting pampered after the fall. Thank you. And I may have time to read this one, hopefully. This is called My Bathers and I. It's come the time that I dread. My bathers are lying on the bed. They look so innocent and sweet, but they challenge me to a defeat. It is a war, no more, no less, and I have to come out victorious. I have to put my bathers on. Everyone else is up and gone. I puff and struggle and turn quite blue. It's like fitting an elephant into a shoe. Over my tummy, but how to squeeze my bottom into something as small as these? I throw myself upon the bed, my face is getting really red. I push and pull and breathe right in. I'm beginning to think I'm going to win. Over the shoulder and all tucked in. But there appears to be lots of me up under my chin. Ah, what a relief the bathers are on. I look in the mirror to see how I've gone. And that's when I give a horrified shout. The bathers are on, but they're inside out. I just can't bother anymore. I'll not go down to the seashore. I'll cut these flaming bathers free and go and have a cup of tea. Thank you.
Thanks, Kay. See, better just not to wear bathers.
Pardon?
Better not to wear bathers at all.
That's because they're right. People would run screaming like the plague.
Michelle Burke is going to ad-lib. Or,
As I usually do. Marcello. I'm very sad to hear about your son, and he, as Blaise said, he is still with us.
So is Paul.
I know. I'm going to talk about Paul tonight too.
Good.
I'm Michelle. I launched this lovely little new book on the weekend, Death, Dying and Beyond. Woohoo! And it was a really lovely time we had, and the lady that launched my hashtag Travelling with Cardboard Paul launched the book for me, and we had a lovely time. And it was she said some stuff and I said some stuff, and then we had a Q&A, which was really great. So it was actually, I think that was the highlight of my day, this Q&A. But anyway,
really good questions asked.
There was very, very confronting, I think. But anywho, so I'm sort of going to talk about the book, but I've got a little story which I talked about the importance of planning. And, you know, how many people here have planned their, you know, birthdays and engagements, their weddings and, you know, births and, flower showers and whatever. But we don't really think or plan our last celebration, the last hurrah, as I call it. And the question came up on the weekend, and this little story is the reason why there is an importance. I've got a friend of mine I used to work with in Tasmania. Her name's Michelle as well, and she rang me about 2 weeks ago, and she had already bought the book, and she said, Michelle, she said, I need your book, but I lent it out to somebody. She said, I really need it. And I said, why? And she said, my son-in-law's mother had committed suicide. And I said, I'm sad to hear that. And she said, the family is a mess. They are stressed, they are grieving, they don't know what to do. What do? We can't find a will. I said, well, if you can find a will, that'd be good. And she said, oh, we can't find a will. And I said, well, why don't you choose somebody to represent the family? Because they're arguing over, you know, whether she was going to be buried, cremated, what songs, you know, everything else that goes with, you know, a funeral. And also they had to find, you know, up until that point, they were up to $10,000, $12,000 to actually pay for the funeral. That was just the start, let alone, you know, we have to find $10,000, $15,000 within a week. We've got a very short period of time of planning it. And my passion is about ensuring that people actually do plan it. Have that discussion with your families. Like, it can be very simple. I did it with my mother last year, and I had a fair idea what she wanted, but I just asked her, I played music to her, I said, Mum, what about this song and this song and this song? And she said, oh, I love that song, and she'd already told her niece what she wanted. But I'm just saying to Michelle, well, you know, it's very important if you can find the will. So hopefully you've got a will in place. You can, you know, if you're ill, there's advanced care planning. There's a whole lot, which I cover in this little book. It's got a lot of little juicy bits, and it's got forms and tick and flicks if you want to plan. And even if you don't want to have that discussion, I've got downloadable forms on my website, michelleburke.com.au, which you just tick and flick and file with your will. And, you know, at least the family can then plan, you know, help, you know, plan it. But going back to Michelle, she said, well, you know, she said, what do we do? And I said, well, if you can't find the will, choose somebody. And then I also said, state trustees will get involved. And you don't particularly want state trustees to get involved because they'll tie it up, and all them, you know, everything gets tied up with them. It'll take ages to, you know, resolve the estate and everything else. So that's, you know, the importance is we can all go any moment of the day, month, year or whatever. So if you're planned, it's great. And this little book, and I have got forms. Just a quick one. I also talk about the beyond part, and I am a believe in the afterlife, and I am a trance medium. I have spoken to my late husband on many occasions. He helped me write this book, so he is my ghost writer, so to speak. So on the day, I'll just talk about on the day, excuse me, Paul was dying. My sister had come down to spend a couple of days with me, and she said, I walked her out to the car because she was going home, and Paul was dying that day sometime, and I felt this overwhelming feeling of freedom, excitement, and I don't know why I was feeling this, because I was losing my husband that afternoon, so it was from one extreme to another. So whilst I was writing this book, Paul came through, and this is what he told me. Just a quick one. I walked Janine, which is my sister, out to her car and gave her a big hug. I told her that I had this overwhelming feeling of peace and freedom and felt really excited. Why I would feel that is beyond me. as I was losing my soulmate, my true love, within the next few hours. By now I was so tuned and connected to Paul, this may have been what he was feeling. I hope it was, as it was an amazing feeling. It might also be that I had finally come to the end. I was exhausted and wanted this freedom for such a long time, and now it was within my grasp. I didn't want my beautiful Paul to leave, only the cancer. That whole day, although the weather outside was warm, the house was freezing cold. I joked to Gary, our son, that the spirits were circling, preparing Paul. It was very eerie, and we both got the tingles and shivers. Janine rang me mid-afternoon and said she had been driving through Elmore in Victoria, and that the feeling she had that morning of Paul dying was only getting stronger. I again said I knew, but it was about when. Paul has recently told me when I was saying goodbye to Janine out the front of our house, just before he passed away, he was moving in and out of his body, transitioning between this life and the next. He was floating around, ensuring that everyone was going to be okay and witnessing his own death. He was disconnected from the body, but his soul returned so he could be there when he took his last breath. He wanted to be present to experience what it was like to actually die and for the soul to leave the human body. No wonder I felt so peaceful and free that morning. Thank you. The books are available here. They're on the table there for 15. And if there's a book pack here with all my 3 books for 55. Thank you.
Yes, true. To be organised is really good. Or just to have discussions with people in the family, because we've seen in our family where siblings have argued over whether to bury or cremate. It's like, well, if you have these discussions, there's no need. Robin has got some poetry.
I have a maniacal neighbour. This is called My Neighbour. Mowed, blowed, sucked, spewed, dumped, clipping, snapping, leaning, grasping, hosing. Neighbour gardening. Looking disdainfully, looking toward my overgrown jungle of a garden. Another leaf falling, he catching fanatically, crushing, dispensing, looking. Smiling lazily, I rolled onto my other side and continued reading my book. I worked in the textile business, and I used to go down and have a coffee down in a little shopping centre. This one's called Community. I like that, exclaimed the French lady, referring to my bright shirt, as I enter the patisserie at the local shops. I'm sure over time the small group of stores has many stories of their own, like the girl at the small supermarket who knows the little old lady who walks a kilometre every day, come rain or shine, pushing her jeep to collect provisions. According to the girl, the old lady also does her laundry every day. Bob, with a bushy white beard, a retired South Australian postman who takes coffee in the same seat every morning at the quaint coffee shop. He greets me with, "Hello, Robert," although my name is Robin. Don't have the heart to tell him and the barista I'm not a Robert. The girls at the post office who chat about menus, what's for dinner, and their footballer sons. The op shop ladies who almost hug me when I drop off more of my unwanted treasures. I'm sure if I continue to scratch the surface, more interesting characters and stories will emerge. I'm off to explore a little more. Sure beats shopping online.
I hate shopping online. Do you know, in the last year, I bought 3 things online. I bought an antique keyboard, and I got a tiny little plastic keyboard that probably cost $1. Then I bought another antique keyboard, and I got a vinyl wallet, and then I bought a stand-up desk, and I got a hand towel. So that's the 3 times, no more. I've learnt my lesson. Someone in China is having a go at me.
Now let me guess, you didn't speak to anybody, did you?
No. Steve is having an existential crisis.
How crazy is it that we're all here? I don't mean here in this room, but here on this planet, in this galaxy. There's a billion trillion stars out there, and we are just a speck revolving around another speck, and we are specks on that speck. And so have you ever thought about how improbable it is that we actually exist? And given all that, it's amazing what things we deem to be really obscure things can seem so important to us, when everything is so insignificant. I'll give you an example. You recall last month I mentioned that I was an engineer, a civil engineer as opposed to a hostile engineer. I had to throw that one in again. Now, I'm working in private consultancy now, but when I was with council, one of my team's major tasks was to advise developers on stormwater drainage for their developments. And our main requirement was that they restrict the outflow of their stormwater by placing a plate in front of the outlet with a hole, which is called the orifice. So you say yes. For several years, I got a lot of pleasure from telling developers what they should do with their orifices. but think of it. In just one Melbourne municipality, it was the job of about 3 people to prevent developers from overloading the drainage pipes that were installed to remove the stormwater from the land, which we, the community, had covered with roads and buildings and other hard services. And this was done in the name of community harmony, because if we didn't do it, people would complain because they could see the stormwater. Because in our modern world, that natural life-giving rain has become a nuisance. So what other simple things do we do? Do we all stress out about? Appropriate attire, perhaps. How do we decide what is appropriate to wear, and why does it differ in certain situations? If I were to strip down to my underpants, right here and now, I'm trying to, it would make some of you feel very uncomfortable. Maybe a few of you will be impressed. But most of you will get a chuckle out of it. However, if you were to see me at the swimming pool or at the beach, and I was wearing only Speedos, there would be no issue. You would perhaps prefer I was wearing board shorts, but you wouldn't consider my dress inappropriate in those circumstances. So why have we created such seemingly random rules on dress and behaviour? And don't get me started on neckties. At the end of the day, we are the result of a cosmic calamity. Somehow, billions of years ago, a massive explosion spat out all of the elements in the known universe, and a random mix of those elements formed into a planet which was orbiting a fission reactor that was just the right size to energise organic elements into life forms, only to have almost all of those life forms wiped out when a large chunk of cosmic matter that our planet got in the way of smashed into us. But that, of course, allowed for mammalian life to take control. And we, of course, see ourselves as the pinnacle of mammalian life, as we have managed to control our environment to the extent that engineers need to tell developers what to do with their orifices. But, and with all respect to the author Douglas Adams, it is for precisely the same reason that dolphins know that they are the pinnacle of mammalian life. So thank you.
Holly's going to read an essay.
There's some personal reflections on travel restrictions. Humans love to travel, from pilgrimages to work, to exploration for the sake of discovery or for trade, and to travel for curiosity and simple, unbridled enjoyment. Humans love to travel. Indeed, travel is part of what has made the human race so undeniably successful. From our evolutionary origins in the Rift Valley of East Africa, we have travelled over continents and over time, adapting to different climates and landscapes as we wandered. Humans can live in all areas of the world, with the possible exception of the cold, desolate, wind-blown continent of Antarctica. We changed our skin colour, our hair types, and even our lungs to adapt to the places and the climates and conditions we found. Conveniently, if we only travel to explore or to seek new trade, then return, we do not need to adapt physically, linguistically, or even culturally to the places we visit. If we only visit, perhaps find an interpreter, we do not need to adopt the local customs or learn the local language. We can travel in a country other than our own and indulge our senses, the new, the different, the exotic, and then return to our familiar home surroundings. We can do as we please, within reason. We can indulge in luxuries which would be unthinkable at home, or simply unrealistic. We can lounge on the beach for days on end, if we choose. We can take photos, souvenirs, mementos, and then leave. We can, in short, travel for a holiday. With our comparative wealth in time, money and opportunities, most of us can and have taken a holiday overseas. But what then if we cannot travel overseas? If our movements are limited not by poverty or responsibilities, as is the sad reality for many, but if our travel options are limited by a pandemic and the subsequent rulings imposed by a government, what are our options? We can travel virtually by delving into the endless expanses of the internet and its inexhaustible supply of images of places undoubtedly more wonderful, more colourful, more luxuriant than our own simple, well-known backyard. We can travel by reading the memoirs of others' travels, or by leafing through guidebooks with pages of glorious photos, crammed with colour and always so much more crisp and well composed than our own modest travel snapshots. Or we can travel through memories, our own memories, and this, I believe, leads to an appreciation of the long-lasting value of travel. A holiday lasts only a limited period of time. An extended episode of travel, backpacking perhaps, or charity work abroad, must still, usually, come to an end. On returning home, there inevitably comes a time when life returns to what it was before. The holiday becomes simply a memory, supported with photos we rarely look at, and a small knick-knack, perhaps a fridge magnet that keeps falling off when we slam the door too hard, or a model boat that is knocked over by the dog one time too many and develops a crack along its hull. The small, subtle holiday memories which come to mind when we least expect them are often the memories which are most potent and which linger the longest. Recollections of crabs emerging on a beach at sunset, or the fiery hot curry we ate at the street market that brought tears to our eyes, or the kind man who offered his seat on a crowded bus. These are the moments not captured by the camera, not shared on social media or encapsulated in a souvenir fridge magnet. These are the memories which bring back the essence of the place at the time that we visited, that we loved during our short vacation. These are the memories that can transport us back to the beach and the feeling of warm sand beneath our feet, to the street market and its intermingling aromas overwhelming our senses and the burst of flavours upon our tongue, to the noise of the bus and the patience of the locals who shared their food and their smiles, transforming an uncomfortable trip into a journey of delight and laughter. These are the memories that no lockdown or restrictions or border closures can ever erase. These are the memories which provide a reminder of the beauty of the world, the charm of its peoples, and can rekindle an appreciation for the value of travel. With the opportunity to travel again overseas still distant, the importance of reminiscences, the values of experiences, comes into sharper perspective.
Thanks, Holly. For those of you who missed the Untitled launch, our latest issue is here. And that's going to be our door prize tonight. A copy of that. I'm going to read from my little book of stories from my childhood. This story is called Turning Feral. A pack of dogs was going crazy down at our swimming hole. Crazy, wild, like nothing you could tell them would stop their racket. It had been happening a lot. Packs of dogs rampaging through the bush. It was talked about at tables and by the river. What should we do about those dogs? They've had the taste for blood, turning feral. Us kids emerged from the blackberry tunnels and rushed down to the river to investigate. We made up our own little feral pack. A dead kangaroo, fat and bloated, was wedged in a tree that overhung the waterhole. The stench stung our nostrils and the pack of dogs burst with hysteria. "Will it explode?" asked Cuzzy. Someone nudged the animal with a long stick, but it didn't budge. Marco stepped out from the bank, left foot on a branch, right foot on the body, like a stepping stone. Us onlookers craned forward, waiting for the drama. The dogs were beyond excited now, saliva spraying sideways, teeth bared. Marco rocked and nudged at the dead beast, the water rippling across the river. We held our noses dramatically. The pong made our eyes water. The kangaroo came free, bobbing in the ripples and parting the branches of the tree. The dogs barked in trill tones, feverish, as a bulbous body floated down the Wadbilliga, the dogs following along the shore, carrying on like it might try to escape and bound away. Boredom set in now that the excitement was gone, so we ran off to capture frogs. The dogs lost interest too and slinked away into the bush. The occasional yelp or bark faded into nothing. This small bit of excitement and soon forgotten, we went back to the blackberries. From the break of day till the dusk of night, we were in the creek bed or in the blackberries. We scooted into the depths of the vines, prickly and dense, where we had carved out rooms and corridors just like in Watership Down. We sat in dugout hollows, sipping tea from a river stone, or writing on a flat piece of slate using another powdery rock as a pen. There were so many colours, pink, mint green and white. My favourite made soft yellow words. Our warrior dog, Cloud, stood guard. He was bored with our games and lay down to sleep. We'd hear a whine deep in the bush and Cloud would lift his head to listen, wary of those feral dogs in the distance. The blackberries grew like a hedge around the bend in the creek and gave us bucket loads of fat, juicy blackberries every summer. There's nothing like blackberry jam made with just picked berries. Mama sometimes put too much sugar in the mix and the jam became toffee. It was so hard we couldn't get it out of the pot. Then it burnt and turned the toffee black. The pot was no good now. We'd put it in the garden for the bush to claim. When the jam worked well, it didn't last. We ate it on chapati bread cooked on the open fire, warm and oozy. A jar of jam might last a day or two, maybe less if we didn't have to wait for the chapatis to cook. Mama said that my daddy was coming to Tralfamadore. I didn't know what she was talking about. His name was Billy, just like my brother, and he was back in Australia after being in jail in France. Something bad happened there, but I didn't know what. I was a little excited, but also felt a bit strange because I didn't know what he was like. I didn't remember him. I knew his mama, though, and she had big cow eyes and long eyelashes that it looked even bigger through thick glasses, and she lived in Melbourne. Billy arrived on the back of a ute. A dog followed behind it, running along the road. Billy got out of the ute and had a huge smile like he was happy to see me. He was skinny like me, and he had big eyes and long eyelashes like his mama. He carried a mandolin everywhere, and everyone seemed to like him, even though they just met him. He smoked joints a lot and was happy. I liked him, but I didn't feel sad when he left. Thank you. Got two more readers, Betty and Dominic. So we might start with you, Betty, with your poem, and then we'll finish with a song with Dominic.
One of these nights I'll do a song and I'll make Dominic read a poem. Just for a change, what do you think? No, you haven't heard me sing. Not good at all. I did have a poem I was going to read, but I'm starting to think it's a little bit too heavy for the evening. So if that's all right, I mean, you didn't know what it was going to be, but I'm just going to change midstream, so to speak. And I'll do one which is called Grandad Jack, and it's not about anybody that I know in this room at all. Right, sure. Grandad Jack is tough and strong. He works out in a gym. To bench press 70 kilograms is easy work for him. A weekend handyman, he mows the lawn and trims the trees, fixes taps, cleans gutters and sweeps up all the leaves. At 75, they say, he's as fit as a mallee bull. Trouble is, he seems to think that he's indestructible. We walk into the doctor's, me and Grandad Jack. The receptionist just nods, not surprised to see us back. Finding two seats together, we patiently wait our turn. It's really nothing, love, he says, just a little burn. Dr. Jones waves us in. Well, Jack, I really must say, this is your third visit this year and we're only into May. Consulting the computer, the doctor opens up his notes. Now let me check your history. He reads and then he quotes. You tripped on a gravel road when training for a Gold Coast race, knocked your head, skinned your knees, then went surfing on your face. And here we have hernias, 1, 2 and 3, and then the notes go back to the doctor before me. An eye injury, 1 weekend from a poke with a sharp stick. Severe back pain from carrying 1 too many bricks. A detached muscle, torn ACL, the list goes on and on. But Grandad Jack was tired of listening to this song. But doctor, see the bright side, Grandad did protest. I'm strong and healthy and I always pass each test. Cholesterol, iron levels, blood pressure, pulse rate, all within the limits, and for my age group, I'm great. Says the doctor, this burn's not too bad, but look before you leap in future, my lad. Jack, you must stop trying to self-destruct, or else your health will be well and truly ruined. We buy some cream and bandages and then I drive home Grandad Jack. I leave him in Grandma's loving hands and promise I'll be back. Next morning I visit them to share some morning tea. No sign of Grandad, so I say to her, where is he? She says he went to pick some fruit, shouldn't be too hard. Enjoying our morning tea, we hear a yell come from the yard. We drop our cups and rush outside, just in time to see Grandad Jack perched on a branch high up in the plum tree. Grandma stood there looking up, while Grandad just yelled at her. Don't just stand there, Emily, go and fetch the ladder. Grandma's face took on a curious expression. She muttered something about old fools and lessons. Grandad yelled again, get the ladder from the shed. Grandma turned her back on him. looked at me and said, "I thought I heard a noise, dear, but I must have been wrong. Let's you and me go back inside and have another scone." Then she walked back into the house wearing a big wide grin. I hesitated for a moment, then I followed her right in. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're sitting next to Richard,
All by himself.
so this is the latest issue of Untitled. Some really great short stories in there. Number 11. Okay, thank you. So that's it for the. Unless anyone wants to add anything, any announcements, any events people have got coming.
Earth Day tomorrow.
Is it Earth Day tomorrow? Is it? It's Earth Day tomorrow.
Where can you go?
There's quite a few people actually in the room who are coming to King Lake for the retreat. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people here. No, 1, 2, 6.
Probably all there.
Oh, no, there is 7. Yes. It's just like.
Did you want to mention Watsonia tomorrow night?
Oh yes, thank you. Watsonia Library, which is just down the road, across the highway, is also running open mic night on the 4th Thursday of the month, which happens to be tomorrow night because the month started on a Friday, I think. And I'm going to be emceeing it. So I did it last month and I'm doing it for a little while. I don't know how long I've sucked myself in for that one. But anyway, that's at 7:30. It's free. They have tea and coffee, and it's another chance for you to read or to come and listen if you want to.
Is that on the little room?
Yes, in the little room, yep. No theme, just whoever turns up, we'll see how we go. Yep. If anyone other than the 7 people already coming to King Lake are interested in a future, or if you know someone who is interested in a future retreat, the next one will be October because I already have a waiting list. So thank you so much for coming on this suddenly wintry kind of weather. And don't forget, Michelle has some of her books here for sale if you're interested. Does Gay have any books with her? Well, anyway, some of Gay's books are up there. And if any of you have your own books, always feel free to bring them with you to sell. Richard's got a book up there too on the table, so have a look. Thank you everyone. Stay for tea and coffee.